Hey YouTube, welcome to another video. In this episode, I will be showing how you can protect your Omada network to ensure you can recover your configuration in case of issues with your configuration. When I was just starting with Omada way back in 2020, if I remember correctly, I built my network slowly and surely. My configuration started really small with two VLANs that only separates broadcast domains and not much else. As time progressed, my configuration grows beyond those two VLANs and I ended up with quite a decent setup. I have always documented my network no matter how little change I made, but what I didn't do was to save the configuration regularly, and that was a big mistake. It is because I made a mistake in one of my ACL configuration, which at the time I wasn't able to recover. That mistake took down my whole network and I have to factory reset my devices, and because my configuration backup were pretty old, I ended up redoing everything by hand. My network diagram helped a lot with the restoration, and since it's Omada SDN, it's really easier to do that. However, it still took some time to get everything back to where I wanted my network to be. I am less prone to such mistake today because I always make an auto backup, and in this video, I'll cover the configuration. In this video, I'm going to cover the backup procedure for hardware controllers. I have tested the process using OC200, OC220, and OC300. I have not tested the steps with software controller as well as with any gateway with built-in controller. For those platforms, you will need to check their respective process. I do not suspect any major deviations, but firmware differences and hardware components will result in minor differences compared to the steps shown in this video. For this setup, the only device required is the hardware controller and a USB flash drive. So this is the OC220, and you will see that I already have a USB flash drive already plugged in. For OC300, you can just plug the USB flash drive directly to its USB port. But for OC220 and OC200, you need to have it powered by a PoE. You can see here, I have a PoE switch in here. This is not an Omada device. This is a STMMO switch, and I'm using this to power my hardware controller. The USB flash drives needs to be formatted, and it should have a usable partition already. It needs to be FAT32. You can get an 8GB flash drive, that should be enough. You don't need to have something very high capacity. Make sure that you use a USB flash storage or USB device that is from a reputable brand. Don't try to skimp on it, but you don't need to break the bank as well. Just make sure that the storage device is reliable enough so that in times of need, you will always be able to recover your files as necessary. Also note that while I'm using a USB flash drive in this video, you can also use a different storage option, such as network storage or even a USB SSD storage device. Now that's covered, let me jump into the Omada console. Now I'm in the Omada console, but before I start with the configuration, I'd like to ask for your support. If you find this video helpful or you're able to learn something new from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any corrections or suggestions or questions, please leave it in the comment section. I always strive to reply to all the posts on my videos. So let me get back to the configuration. In here, I'm in the global settings of my Omada controller. You can find it here under global view, and then going to settings and then system settings. In this view, you will see that I have an internal storage. So this is the internal storage built into the Omada controller. And in here, you can see the USB disk. I'm not sure why there is no indication here that it's an external storage, but this is the disk that you plugged into your USB port. In here, you can see that the internal storage is mostly free, but at the same time, the USB disk one is entirely free. However, I do have some backup configurations in here, but the backup configuration is so small that it barely registers on the USB flash drive. Before proceeding with the configuration, make sure that you are always using the latest version of the Omada firmware. For this video, I'm using version 1.3.7 of the Omada firmware, and this is the build 2025-1220. So basically, it was released December 20 last year, 2025. Now I'm going to show how to do automatic backup. Settings, maintenance. Under maintenance settings, you will have the restore option, the backup option, and the backup schedule option. For the restore, this is where you're going to restore the downloaded files that you can create, and I'll show you that in a minute on how to create that. The backup portion, this part is where you back up the current configuration at the time that you click the export button, either to a local file or to a file server. In this video, I'm only going to cover the export to local file. And in the backup schedule, normally this will be off. You have to turn it on like that, and you will be given options that you can configure to set up your automatic backup. Let me just go back to the backup option and let me demonstrate how this one works. This export to file server, so I'm just going to click this so that you can see the options, and then I'll click export. Once I click this, you will be given several options on how to export or how to download the configurations to a remote file share. For example, you can use FTP, you can use TFTP, SFTP, or SCP. And then you will have to configure these options to log in. This is out of scope. I just want to show the screen of how this one looks like. For this video, I'm going to cover the export to local file. I'm going to click export, and once I click this one, there will be a progress bar to be displayed. As you can see here, it's currently doing the backing up, and there you go. In here, it will show that it is an unverified download and it's blocked. At least my Google Chrome blocks it. In your case, it might not, but if you encounter something like this, all you have to do is click here and download the unverified file, and there you go, it's now downloaded. And for this final section, the backup schedule, this is what I always have on my system. You can see the options in here. You can do a yearly backup, or you can do a monthly backup, or you can do a weekly backup. But for the purpose of demonstration, I did a backup every day. It's really up to you on the frequency of the schedule of the backup, but for demonstration purposes, I used a daily backup for my configuration. And in here as well, you can choose to backup just the settings, or including the user info, authenticated clients, and firmware. You can also back up additional information. You can see here the client list, alert and event list, and audit logs. So this one is good if you are using Omada in company settings. But for my personal settings, at least for my home use, I only need to have the settings backed up. For the storage, similar to the backup portion in here, you can also save to a file server. And again, the same option will appear in here, similar to the backup. But I'm going to click the save to local file. This one, if it's not selected on your system, make sure to select the USB disk one for your backup. And then you can also set the maximum number of files. You can set anywhere between 1 to 100. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 files. And once you have completed your configuration, all you have to do is click save. Okay. So how do you actually use this? For maintenance, all you have to do is browse, and you can select the file that you have downloaded. In this one, this is the one that I just recently downloaded a few minutes ago. So select this file, click open, and then click restore. I'm not going to click restore in here. Just showing you how it's done. I also covered this in my previous video, so if you missed that one, I highly suggest you watch that video. And the other one, for the backup schedule, this one is my favorite part of the Omada, because you can actually revert back to your configurations if you're doing a lot of tinkering. So I highly suggest that if you're doing a lot of tinkering, that you do a daily backup. If not, you can leave this to at least once a week. I wouldn't go monthly configuration because that might miss a lot of configuration. I highly recommend the weekly backup and daily backup if you're doing a lot of testing and configuration on your system. In here, you can see that you can restore, you can export, and you can delete the backup file. Let me just show you the other configurations in here. ER77, and then let me do LAN. In here, I have two VLANs. This is ER707. I have here after January 28, 2026 at around 3 o'clock and past 3 p.m. basically. So this is the time, 15:33, and this is the date. So this is at least how I named it. That's for ER707. Let me check ER7406. And I have another one in here This one is again similar time. This is how I name it again, and this one as well. So these are the things that we can verify once I did a restoration. What I'm going to do is restore my configuration prior to this date. So that will be January 27. If I restore my configuration on January 27, meaning this configuration shouldn't show up. So let's check that 707 again. So this one shouldn't show up as well. So let me do the restoration now. So global, settings, maintenance. Okay. And this one is the January 27. I'm going to restore it. So once I'm doing to restore it, it will take some time. So I'm going to speed up the video. Let me just restore it now. And in here, make sure to hit the warning about all of those configurations. And I'm just going to make sure that I retain the device info before I continue to restore. So this one. Another recommendation is to save the current configuration. I already did that when I was using the backup settings, so I don't need to do that anymore. So I'll do the continue restore. There you go. Again, I'm going to speed up the video. It shows 100% successful, so it's pretty fast. It's just a minute or less to do the actual restoration, and it will refresh the page. And note that during this particular process, the backup schedule will be turned off, so you have to make sure to turn it back on again. So these settings of backup schedule have been discarded. Please reconfigure backup schedule to make it available. So I'll just click OK, and you will see here that it's turned off in here. There you go. I'm going to set it up again, save, and don't panic if you don't see anything in here. It didn't really erase your whole flash drive, but for now it's not yet seeing the contents because I still haven't clicked save in here. So in here I'll select the USB auto backup folder. It's pretty much the same configuration I have earlier, and then I click save. There you go. And once everything is set up, the system will read the flash drive again, and it will see all the files again. So while we're waiting for that settings to show up, I'm going to go to ER707, and then I'm going to the network config and go to LAN. And you will see that this one doesn't have the other VLAN anymore, the one that says January 28. Same thing goes for the ER7406. As you can see, I have lesser VLANs in here. I don't have anything that shows that I made a new VLAN, a new configuration changes after January 27. So it doesn't show anything about January 28. So let me just go back to the global. And this time around, once the file shows up, I'm going to restore the one that just was recently backed up this afternoon. So I'll go to settings, maintenance, and there you go. You can see that all the files has been shown again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to restore the one that says January 30, which was made this afternoon. I'm going to click restore in here. There you go. I don't need to do the backup. I already did that earlier, so I'll just continue restore. Once this is complete, it should show the changes I made on January 28. So it's now 10:15. It's 91%. It shows restoring. Please wait. There you go. It shows 100% successful. Again, make sure to reconfigure your backup schedule after each restoration. I'm not sure why Omada did it this way, but it resets the backup schedule. As you can see here, it doesn't really restore the settings of the backup schedule. So what I'm going to do is click turn on in here, and then I'll select this one, USB backup, and then click save. Succeeded. And now while I'm waiting for it to populate, let me go back to those sites. So this site should show the changes that I made on January 28 at 3 p.m. So ER707, it should show additional VLANs in here. So network config, LAN, and there you go. You can see here, I have here after January 28, And as for the ER7406, there you go. And you can see here that I have one that shows January 28, 2026. And if I go back to the global settings, maintenance, and backup, I should be able to see all the files that I have already saved. And there you go. So I think that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a like. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or corrections on this video, or if you have a different way of saving your configuration, do share it in the comments. I always strive to reply to all comments and basically interact with you guys. Okay, I'm targeting to have 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I hope you support me. Thank you again for watching my video. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you and bye bye.